Fascia is composed of collagen and elastin in an extracellular matrix. The plasticity and pliability of our fascia is related to the quantity and quality of collagen and elastin fibers, the consistency of the extracellular matrix, and our hydration. Many factors influence this, such as our diet, our posture, our movement patterns, the level of mechanical stress we face, and mental/emotional stress in our lives. The myofascial net is an uninterrupted 3D web of connective tissue. The myofascial lines we will be examining today are the superficial back line, the superficial front line, the lateral line, and the spiral line. The superficial back line connects the entire backside of the body, from the plantar surface of the toes to the eyebrows on the forehead. From the toes, the superficial back line runs through the plantar fascia, then to the calcaneal tendon, and up to the left and right gastrocnemius. It then splits into two separate lines at the femoral condyles and follows the medial and lateral hamstring to the ischial tuberosity. It connects to the sacrum via the sacrotuberous ligament. It then travels superiorly through the thoracolumbar fascia and erector spinae to reach the occipital ridge. It then wraps around the cranium, around the epicranial fascia, to come to a halt at the eyebrows on the frontal bone. The superficial back line holds the body in an erect position. It counteracts the superficial front line by providing extension of the spine. You can strengthen the superficial back line with exercises like cobras or supermans, and stretch the superficial back line when performing forward folds. The superficial front line balances the superficial back line in the sagittal plane. It supports the body in flexion. It starts at the dorsal surface of the toe phalanges and runs up the short and long toe extensors, the tibialis anterior and the anterior crural compartment, to the tibial tuberosity. From the tibial tuberosity superiorly, the superficial front line follows the patellar ligament to the patella and upward to the patellar tendon, which is where the quadriceps and rectus femoris insert. The origin of the rectus femoris is the AIIS. From here, the superficial front line takes a new origin as it travels upward on the pubic tubercle. The superficial front line follows the rectus abdominis up to the fifth ribs bilaterally. The superficial front line continues up the sternum via the sternalis fascia to the sternocleidomastoid mastoid, which attaches to the mastoid process of the temporal bone. The functions of the superficial front line acts to contract the front of the body. Exercises that strengthen the superficial front line would be a hollow body hold with the rectus femoris contracted and the toes pointed. To stretch the superficial front line, back bends such as camel or bridging on the toes would work. The lateral line begins at the base of the first and fifth metatarsals. The first metatarsal is an insertion for the fibularis longus, while the fifth metatarsal is the fibularis brevis. The fibulary muscles travel up the lateral side of the leg to the fibular head. It then jumps to the lateral tibia condyle via the anterior ligament of the head of the fibula. From here, the IT band runs up to the gluteus maximus and the tensor fasciae latae. The lateral line then is attached to the iliac crest, the ASIS and the PSIS specifically. From here, the lateral line weaves/crisscrosses its way up the torso via the internal and external obliques, as well as the internal and external intercostals. The internal oblique and the intercostals run in the same direction posteriorly, and the external obliques and intercostals run anteriorly. Both of these run diagonally. At the top of the torso, the intercostals continue the lateral line to the first and second ribs, where it is connected to the splenius capitis and sternocleidomastoid, which again run in opposite lines of pull. It finishes at the occipital ridge and mastoid process. Exercises like half moon pose strengthens it. To stretch this myofascial line, side angle pose would work. The spiral line consists of a spiral loop, which starts at the ASIS and follows the TFL and IT band down the side of the thigh, connecting the tibialis anterior, which inserts on the first metatarsal, which is where the fibularis longus inserts as well. From here, the spiral line runs to the biceps femoris, which attaches to the fibular head. The spiral line goes to the ischial tuberosity, the origin of the biceps femoris. It continues from the ASIS through the abdomen via the internal obliques on one side and crosses over to the external obliques on the other side. It continues around the side of the rib via the serratus anterior, where it then attaches to the ipsilateral rhomboids and then across the spine to the contralateral splenius capitis and cervicis. From the occipital ridge, where the splenius capitis inserts, it runs down the erector spinae through the thoracolumbar fascia across the sacrum and sacrotuberous ligament, and back to the ischial tuberosity. There are essentially two spiral loops, one from the ASIS around the foot and back to the ipsilateral ischial tuberosity, and another from the ASIS across the torso contralaterally around the upper back to the ipsilateral neck and down to the ischial tuberosity. We can stretch this line in the yoga pose triangle. Front and back functional lines are unique because, as the name implies, assist the body in functional movements. The front functional line starts at the shaft of the humerus, insertion of the pec major, and runs across the body, ending at the contralateral linea aspera, insertion of the adductor longus. The back functional line starts at the shaft of the humerus as well, which is the insertion point for the latissimus dorsi. It travels across to the opposite side of the body through the contralateral glute max of the vastus lateralis and ends at the tibial tuberosity. We see the functional front line in sports like a tennis serve and a baseball pitch. We see the back functional line in sporting activities like basketball when performing a layup, and in yoga when performing Warrior 1.